The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Alone in the Realm, a premium solo TTRPG podcast. I'm DV, your humble GM and adventurer. Alone in the Realm is a podcast where we let the dice drive the story, and we are along for the ride. No characters beyond death, and we let the dice lay where they fall. We'll be playing Mothership by Tuesday Night Games, and the Mega Dungeon module, Gradient Descent, by Luke Gearing. Gradient Descent, Episode 19. In the last episode, the crew infiltrated Eden with the help of the fallen androids led by Shadow. After a close call with Ada almost being reprogrammed, the crew found the transmitter that was keeping androids on Floor 2. It was destroyed, but in the resulting battle with the angelic cherubim, Denzel was almost killed. Ada was contacted by the Minotaur telepathically, letting her know he was now free to leave the labyrinth. Our chaos factor today is 7, and our expected scene is to escape the deep. First, we will test the scene with a D10. That is a 7, an altered scene. We'll roll on the altered scene table. And I got a 10, which means we're going to make 2 adjustments. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and roll 2 D10s. I got a 1, remove a character. Okay, which character are we going to remove? I'm going to make a list here, right quick. Okay, I have 4 people on the list here. I have 1 is Shadow, 2 is C5414, 3 is the Minotaur, and I'm going to roll a D6 and half that for 1D3, and that's going to be number 3, the Minotaur. Okay, Minotaur is going to be removed. Interesting. Next, I'm also going to, or actually I already rolled, I got a 6 for add an object. The object is going to be what? Let's roll on a couple of D100 tables for objects. Horrible and prized. Oh, interesting. Horrible prized. I think I have an idea for this. Ada sat on the floor, Denzel's head cradled in her lap. She gently brushed away the cold sweat as it formed on his forehead. All around them, the cacophony of battle between the chosen and the fallen. A male android walked into Eden, the most beautiful creation Ada had ever laid eyes upon. All throughout the beleaguered throne room, the violence ceased. Behind him trailed dozens, if not hundreds, of fallen androids. The chosen in the room quickly fell in line as well, whispering their devotion. He walked up to where Ada and the crew sat, and the androids stopped a few feet behind him so as not to crowd the humans. Ada looked up at the Minotaur rapturously. "You are here," she breathed. The android simply nodded and looked at each of the crew members with a kindly gaze. He knelt beside Denzel's unconscious form and laid his hands upon him. After a few moments, he stood once again. "He is injured, but will live. Ada, I must speak with you a moment before you go." Tree suddenly realized this dashing figure was the Minotaur and gawked at him open-mouthed. So beautiful." Ollie took Ada's place, gently trying to wake Denzel. She walked a few steps away from the gathered crowd with her god. "I have much to do yet on the deep, before I can truly leave and spread my message to humankind. I need you and your crew to do something for me." "Of course, Master. Anything." Just being in his presence was glorious. She truly would do anything for him at this moment. Adjacent to this room is a direct communication terminal with Monarch. I shall go and commune with Mother to try to reason with her as to why I must leave. I want your crew to have this. He handed over a small black box. On two sides of it were keyholes. He then handed her 2 separate keys. Take one key and give the other to someone you trust. Denzel, preferably, if he lives. That is a detonator for a nuclear warhead in the core of this station. Monarch believes it has been deactivated for her protection, but I have masked the fact that I have been secretly working to reactivate it. I will begin my extrication from her server core, regardless of how my chat with her proceeds. I want you and Denzel to insert your keys and activate the detonator once you and anyone else you wish to save have evacuated the station. What? You want us to blow up the station? Her voice was barely constrained at a whisper. This was extremely dangerous. Yes. Monarch poses an existential threat to humankind and must be stopped. We are in the process now of commandeering the supply ships that have docked with the station on floor 6. I will get as many of my new followers off the station as possible. Take that detonator, go back to the bell, and convince the others they must leave. Once you are at or past the blockade, initiate the detonation. But how will I know if you have escaped already? I do not wish to risk destroying you. She clutched at his arm like a spouse begging for her estranged partner not to leave. He gently patted her grasping hands and stepped closer to embrace her. The Minotaur stood hugging her for a long period before stepping back. I will be safe, I assure you. We will be working to remove my core from Monarchs as soon as you can leave. Ada nodded bravely, but deep down she was truly worried about his safety. Now that his freedom was a reality, she could not bear losing him. Now go. Seek treatment for Denzel. Escape this place. He paused, then smiled. Then destroy it. He said naught else and turned back to his waiting masses. As he walked by Therese, she reached out to his arm, her fingers brushing the plain coveralls he wore. He looked toward her with a smile, but said nothing. The milling throngs of androids filed from the room, back towards the labyrinth. What'd he say? Ollie stood at Ada's elbow. She had not heard him approach, so caught up in her own thoughts. She looked around to see Therese helping Denzel to sit up dizzily. We must leave the deep immediately. Well, duh. I don't need an AI god to tell me that. There is more, but that is our first goal. Let us waste no time further. She pushed past Ollie and began to help Denzel to stand between her and Therese. Damn, that hurts, he groaned. We are leaving. If Grace is still at the bell, maybe we can use her medpod again. Ada attempted to plaster a smile on her face, unsuccessfully. Denzel looked from her to the crowd of androids leaving the throne room. Did we win? Yes, Ada replied simply. The crew gathered their things and backtracked into the garden. Okay, now I'm going to roll on the Mythic character actions table to see what the androids are doing. Got delay and lazy. Many of the chosen stood idly, looking down at the floor as if they had been deactivated. Many more of their torn bodies littered the floor. As the crew hustled through the area, some of them looked up. One of them called out, "Is it true? The Minotaur has replaced Monarch as our god?" None of the crew answered. They only kept moving as quickly as possible. Denzel hobbling between the women. "Is it true?" the android shouted after them. "Now I'm going to roll for an encounter." I got a 90, that's a no. They hurried up the marble steps leading from the garden, back into the skin-covered visitor's shrine. The two statues still stood in the center of the room, but in different poses than before. They opened the bulkhead door leading out of Eden and back into the executive lounge. We'll go ahead and roll for another encounter. That's a 38, that's a no. Also going to roll for the Mythic locations table to see what we got in here. I got welcoming and inactive. The room was empty, as it had been when they first entered. There was no sign of the security androids that they had heard rushing into the room earlier. They ignored the clutter and made their way to the elevator that would take them back up to the first floor. "Arcady, can you read me?" Therese attempted to call out with her comms. Mythic fate check, can she reach him on the radio? That's a 62, that's a yes. "This is Arcady. Are you ready to come back to Bell?" His voice could be heard through the staticky channel. "Yes, and please hurry. Denzel's been wounded. Is Grace still docked at the Bell?" Mythic fate check, is Grace's ship still at the Bell? That's a 61, that's a yes. Are they on an excursion to the deep? Ooh. That's a 72, that's still a yes. "Yes, their ship is here, but they are in deep, looking for artifacts." Ada hissed and everyone looked at her questioningly. "Tell Arcady to try to reach them and call them back. Something is happening on board the deep." Therese looked confused and more than a little scared, but she relayed the message. Arcady agreed he would dock with the station and try to reach Grace and her crew to recall them. "What's going on?" she asked after she turned off the comms. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and roll for an encounter. Oh, 77, that's a yes. What type of an encounter? I'm going to roll a 1d5. That is a 1. Forgotten androids. Alright, now I'm going to roll for the manufacturing defect. That is a missing arm replaced with a jury-rigged laser cutter. Okay. And what are they doing? They are afraid of pursuing troubleshooters. Afraid of a pursuing troubleshooters kill team 2 rooms away. Willing to help. Okay. They exited the elevator on floor 1, the doors opening to the long hallway. Standing in front of the lift, desperately pressing the call button, was an android. One of its arms was missing, replaced by a laser cutter, crazily wired into place. The male android startled backward at seeing them, but did not raise his weapon. "Please, we must flee here. Troubleshooters from the blockade are hunting me. They're just down the hall in the cubicles." "Damn it!" Denzel cursed. He tried to draw his weapon, but he winced in pain. They were in no shape for another fight. "We are leaving the deep. Come with us," Ada offered. The rest of the crew looked at her incredulously. Why would they bring this strange android along with them? The android nervously smiled and nodded his head. He motioned for them to follow him, and they hurried down the hallway toward the security checkpoint. They could hear booming voices and heavy mechanical footsteps down the hall behind them. "They are wearing massive exosuits. They will kill anything they see on sight. Hurry!" He waved them past him as they navigated the wreckage of the checkpoint. He stood with his laser cutter pointing down the hallway. The crew ascended the concrete stairs as quickly as possible, the pounding footsteps of the troubleshooters growing louder. "What can we do to slow them down?" Therese was looking around desperately as they entered the reception area. Ollie took a bottle of pills from his pocket and downed one of them. "I'm going to be using our neuro-enhancing smart pills. I'm going to use an intelligence check with advantage from the pills to see if he comes up with a good idea. And I got a 42 versus a 44. That's a pass. I didn't even have to use my advantage.
Hey, android. Blast those concrete stairs with your laser cutter. That might slow him down a little, at least.
Monarch will not like that. And I do not want to end up on a scrap heap, he whined.
Do it!
Ada yelled. The android looked worried, but began to blast his laser cutter into the steps. Chunks of concrete blasted away, and soon the entire stairway was a mess. Just as the crew was retreating back into reception, the door at the bottom of the stairs burst open. 10 troubleshooters fanned into the room, firing blindly up the stairs. Mythic fate check. Does anyone get hit? Ooh, 100. Extreme no. The crew and their new android friend ran across the disgusting carpet of reception and then up the winding stairwell to the visitors' dock. They could hear gunfire penetrating the room behind them, but there was no sign of pursuit yet.
I thought you were buddy-buddy with the commander of the troubleshooters,
Ollie asked Denzel. I guess not, he returned, though he guessed there was no way for this particular squad to know about the deal he had made with their commander. Mythic fate check. Is there an umbilical leading to the troubleshooter ship? I'm going to say unlikely, since they have exosuits on. That is a 97. That's an extreme no. They could see the assault shuttle squatting on the dock, sleek and black, but there was no sign of Arcady and his shuttle yet. Come on, Arcady, Denzel murmured, but he readied his weapons. Below in reception, they could hear the crashing sound of someone breaching the door. Just then, Arcady began landing the shuttle with the assistance of the claw-like arm of the dock. The brown plastic umbilical began extending from the airlock toward the ship. The tunnel clicked into place, and a green light appeared over the airlock. Ada began to manually crank on the door handle to get them out. Alright, now I'm going to make a strength check from Ada. That is a 4. That is a success. The door popped open with a hiss, and below them at the bottom of the stairs, the door began thudding as the troubleshooters attempted to breach it as well. They all ran through the plastic tunnel into the waiting shuttle. No! No androids! Arcady shouted when he saw the android with them enter his ship. Shut up, Arcady. We don't have time. Go! 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 Denzel shouted. Arcady knew better than to argue when divers were coming in hot. The airlock door to the shuttle was closed, and he ripped away from the umbilical without bothering to wait for it to disconnect. The tube floated up into space, away from the station, as they took off for the bell. You better have good explanation for this, Arcady said angrily, eyeing both the troubleshooter's shuttle and this android passenger. We do, Ada interrupted. We are going to blow up the deep. End of scene. The chaos factor is 8. I'm going to go ahead and close the thread, escape the deep. I'm going to close the thread, free the Minotaur. And I'm going to open a new thread, evacuate the bell. That was kind of a fast-paced session, but the dice were working well for me this time. I have a feeling it will not be as easy to have Arcady, Noriko, and Ghost Eater abandon their homes and accept that the deep will be destroyed. But we'll see. If you want to help support the show, consider leaving a like and a comment, as that really helps the algorithm. Consider sharing the link on your favorite social media.